Hello and welcome back to Coast FC, the Canadian soccer podcast focusing on all things CPL, Canadian Championship, and more. My name is Felipe Ojo.
And I'm Mike Rice.
And today we are excitingly looking back at the first leg ties of the quarterfinal of the Canadian Championship. It's been an action-packed week. It's felt like it's been action-packed weeks for weeks now. There's football almost every day now, which is what we love to see, but we can barely keep up with it here on Coast to Coast. I feel like there's so much other news that's going around that we can't even address just because there's so many games going on. So bear with us, and we'll eventually catch up to some things as things slow down a little bit. But before we dive into the four games of the quarterfinal first leg in the Canadian Championship, remember to follow us on all of our socials at Coast to Coast FC, as well as on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, so you can see our wonderful visuals and our wonderful faces that we have there as well. Now, let's jump into the very first game, CPL versus MLS side. It is, of course, Forge FC against CF Montreal. That one finished 1-1, and a very exciting game. And to begin, the goals were scored in the 31st minute from the David Choinière, the elder Choinière. And then Bryce Duke equalized in the 52nd minute. But before we jump into the goals and to the action, I just want to give a round of applause to Forge FC and to their initiative of the school day match, because 14,923 people attended this match, the second largest Forge FC crowd in their history. The only one that was more was obviously the opener of all openers, the one that started the entire league off. So an incredible turnout. I know there was a lot of displeasure and some drama around this match because of the timing, because it was at 11 a.m., because of the way that season ticket holders had to be moved. And I will agree that everything was maybe thought out with a lot of grace towards the season ticket holders. But nevertheless, it was a fantastic turnout. You could hear the roar of the crowd. It was a couple octaves higher than maybe we're used to on the broadcast, but it was noisy, which is something you always want to see at a football game. The kids loved it. I saw photos from a bunch of different teachers and a lot of different organizers that were really, really happy. The kids had a lot of fun, and overall it was a fantastic day out for both the players, the staff, and the kids themselves. And I think this has proven that an initiative like this, obviously when it's been moved around, it's not as great, but an initiative like this, being able to bring, I think it was something like, it was planned like 10,000 kids in total. You add all of the, the chaperones and the organizers, plus the regular fans as well. It's no wonder that it got to 14,923. But yeah, very impressive from the crowd in this one.
Oh, completely. And like, I know you've mentioned the season ticket holders, and it's a little bit more tricky for them. I do understand that, but we can't keep the league just to ourselves. It wants to grow, and there's no better way than finding the new generation of fans who are going to make their way down to Forge and watch games rather than having a look over at Toronto FC. That's the way this league's going to grow, is finding these young fans that want to follow them throughout their lives. And with such a great experience for them to enjoy, to see Forge taking the lead as well and going sort of head to head with an MLS side. I mean, it's fantastic for the club, and it's really exciting for the future. Like, I think it's a fantastic initiative they've done, and it's great that they've reached out and tried to get the community all in. It's vital for the league to grow, and it's I'm delighted it went really well for them.
Yeah. And I think it, like you mentioned, it helps the new generation to look towards the CPL teams instead of everyone always going towards Toronto FC and the bigger MLS side. So, yeah, I think overall it was safe to say a complete success. Congratulations to Forge and to all the people that put the hard work to get this to go ahead. But now let's jump into the actual action that happened on the pitch. A little bit more storyline, not just this, but also the fact that we had a brother v brother, the battle of the brothers. David Chouanier, elder Chouanier against the younger Chouanier and Mathieu Chouanier. Mathieu Chouanier, a little bit of MLS news. We don't know if he's going to stay at
No,
CF Montreal.
exactly.
So this might be the last time we see this matchup, unless the other jumps somewhere in the same league.
It's off to Vancouver.
And yeah, exactly. So I mean, I would love that. But yeah, this is a storyline that a lot of people were talking about going into it. The two brothers, especially with the fact that David Chouanier has been in pretty red hot form for Forge
Yeah.
FC to start the season. And so it was not really that surprising when in the 31st minute, he's the one that opened the scoring. Really good play by Forge FC. I think Montreal, to be fair to them, they had a lot of rotation. I believe 7 changes from their last
Mm.
MLS lineup. They had a few starts. I know the goalie, Beresa, I think that was the first start for Zuhir as well. So it wasn't the strongest Montreal side, and it probably didn't have it wasn't the most seasoned MLS side in terms of chemistry and in terms of experience. So I think that really lent into the fact that Montreal sort of started a little shaky, and Forge, credit to them, they didn't care who was in front of them. They played
Mhm.
their football. They didn't play, second guessing themselves, trying to be cautious, playing a little nervous. No, they played with the full confidence that you expect them to
Yeah.
have against any CPL side. So it wasn't really that surprising when Forge FC went ahead, and the fact that it was obviously David Chouanier against his brother's team and everything, and the way that the stadium popped when that goal went in, it was a fantastic moment for Forge.
Mm. Yeah, it was, and I mean, obviously, yeah, like we agree, like they've made changes, but Breza's no, um, he's not exactly some sort of naive goalkeeper who's been thrown in on the deep end, unlike the other guy at the other end of the pitch, Kalongo, who had that experience this year. I mean, Victor Wanyama, I've seen for years in the Premier League, is an absolute quality player. And Ibrahim, like Iliadis, Ruan, you've got starting players, Waterman, Alvarez. So things did change around a bit, but I think Forge were just stuck to their guns. This is how we play, and they believe they're at this level that they can compete, and they just went out and did it. And it, it was really funny. I found once David Chouanier got the ball, it did almost seem like everything started to go in slow motion as well as he got himself set up, and
Mm.
everything sort of watching through it, like, yeah, this was destined to happen. He gets this chance and he doesn't need to rush it at all. It's just what with the good play from especially Jordan Hamilton there, like holding up the ball, winning it, getting it wide to Barry Banga, and the movement, getting into the box. And maybe Chouanier was a little bit fortunate that it did make its way to him, but he did have that time to take and set up his shot and hit it well. I mean, Breza gets the touch, but I think he just hit it really well, as we'll see in other games, as we'll discuss later on, with sort of good shots into the near post. And yeah, what an incredible start for Forge as well. I especially liked it because it's not something we usually see from them because of how much they dominate in games so much, but it was just a really fantastic counter attack.
Yeah, no, it was very much kind of not a typical Forge FC goal, but it is something that they have in their locker. It's what they're
Yeah,
capable of with the players that they have. And the fact that they have, I think even this season, we've seen a couple of goals from them where it's on the break, and you see
mm,
players like Barry Banga really thrive in those moments when you're going 1v1. The
yeah,
defender has his back to goal, he's backtracking, that's exactly where he wants him. And same with even like Daniel Parra, he seems to be doing really well with that as well
mm,
coming into the league. So yeah, really good goal from David Chouanier and from Forge overall. And I think that really woke up Montreal after that, because in the
yeah,
last sort of 10, 15 minutes, they started to pick up the pace a little bit. They were
mm,
like, oh, we're losing here. This is not the maybe I don't want to say cakewalk that some were expecting, but I'm sure some might have not been expecting to be
mm,
losing the match at any point throughout the 90s. So I think that woke CF Montreal up, and then halftime came, and then with halftime came some big changes from Montreal that honestly changed the game. Coming in, Bryce Duke came in, Lassiter came in, and Raheem Edwards came in, And those were 3 big changes for them. Especially Raheem Edwards. I think Raheem Edwards probably was one of the most impressive players for me for Montreal. He brings that dynamism. He's very energetic. He gets stuck in. He fights for every challenge. He bombs down that left side. I think he added that kind of pick me up that Montreal needed in the second half and really helped them push Forge back. And I mean, it clearly worked because within 6 minutes of their introduction, Bryce Duke got a goal. A little bit fortunate for him, as it seemed like Forge FC did enough to defend it. It got a shot that got blocked, bounced back in his way. Second bite of the cherry, puts it away. Nothing Kalongo could have done there.
No.
And it was 1-1 at that point. For you, Mike, when Montreal scored that goal, did you think the tides were turning? Did you think that Montreal were going to show their experience and show their sort of wealth of quality and turn this around to get the win?
Yeah, I mean, it does creep into your mind, like, especially how quickly things change, like, and how quickly they got level again. But there's just this thought in Forge, like, we've seen them battle, we've seen them compete, and the sort of the strength and character they had in that first half did make me believe that they're, of all the teams in the CPL who could concede that early on in the second half and know that the other team are going to build in confidence. It's only Forge that you think, actually, like, right, we're not going to let this affect us. Let's continue playing our game. We've matched them for a while. Yeah, there's some new players on the pitch and things have changed up, but we can do this. And I did. Yeah, it crept into my mind, but I still felt confident on Forge creating chances against Montreal.
And create chances they did, because at the very end, Noah Jensen almost won it at the death. Just ran down the pitch. It was basically going 1v1 against his marker, and then the goalie picks his spot. The goalie, Bressa, does super well to get just a hand on that shot, because that was creeping right into the inside of the far post. And the fact that he managed to just palm it away saved his side from losing 2-1, and that would have been incredible scenes if Noah Jensen would have gone that way. He's already scored a late winner this season. He almost was able to do it again. But yeah, overall, some really impressive performances from Forge. I mean, Kalongo, how many times are we going to sing his praises this season? Because sometimes he was standing on his head the way that he denied Montreal, both in the first half and in the second half, made sure the Forge were in it, that their lead was intact all the way up until the second half. And when the second half came and Montreal equalized, made sure that they would not go behind. So really, really mature performance for Kalongo against, I mean, since Chihuahua's his toughest test, I'd argue. And he rose to the occasion. A lot of these players rose to the occasion. Overall, I think, who do you think will be happier with this result, Mike? Do you think Forge, based on the performance, or the fact that Montreal got the away goal?
I think Forge will still be the happier. I think Montreal, they would have expected and they would have planned to come in and come out with 3 points, with 3 points in the cup, with a win, with a lead in that first leg. I think that's what they were planning, to make life like they would have thought it would make their lives easier going back for the second leg. So I still think, despite losing the lead and ending up with a 1-1 draw, Forge will still be really happy that they're very much in this game and they're not chasing anything. In that second leg, they don't have to rush out. They don't have to start trying to get that early goal. They can just go into the second leg and play their game.
Yeah, and I think that because every time that you're sort of in this David versus Goliath situation, obviously away goals counts, and the fact that it's 2-leg obviously plays into your mind. But more than anything, it's the performance that spurns you on, regardless of the score. It's the fact, can you tussle with the big boys, and the fact that Forge have shown time and time again that they have, will, I think, really push them to go to Montreal with that confidence of we can make something happen here. We've already seen upsets in the Canadian Championship. Why can't we be another, especially with
Exactly.
the fact that they have that champions mentality
Mm.
for everything that they've been able to do in the CPL. So yeah, I have full confidence that Forge are not going to make it easy for Montreal in the second leg, and I
Yeah.
think it's gonna take a lot to be able to get past them for Montreal. It's not going to be an easy game whatsoever. So really excited for that one in the later
Mm.
parts of this month to see the second leg. And now we're going to move on to the second match of the first leg of the quarterfinal of the Canadian Championship. That's a mouthful, which is Cavalry FC against the Vancouver Whitecaps in Spruce Meadows. That one finished 2-1 in favor of the Whitecaps. 2 goals by Levante Johnson, the first of which was a wonder goal.
Yeah,
And then
really good.
Shaw at the death in a very weird goal that I don't know by the laws of physics how that one went in.
No.
The angle that we saw made it very, very odd, but we'll talk about that. Let's talk about the first half, because I'll be honest, not much to talk about in the first half. Very sleepy
Yeah.
first half. About two things happened in that half. Two moments really that you can
Yeah.
recall, and they were both in the later parts of the half. I mean, credit to Cavalry. They were really frustrating the Vancouver
Yeah.
Whitecaps. The Whitecaps, again, similar to Montreal, had a lot of rotation. They
Mm.
had some star players. They had obviously Brian White in there. They had Ali Ahmed, who's an important player in there.
Yeah,
Matias
Laborda.
Laborda, who's been
Yeah.
was really strong. But then obviously they had rotation like Bomer, Priso, Levante Johnson, Sebastian Berhalter, just to name a few. Like it
Mm.
wasn't a full strength Whitecaps side, but nevertheless, the fact that Cavalry were frustrating Vancouver, and it was something that I know that Benny Sortini was expecting Cavalry to be really physical
Yeah.
and to make it tough for the Whitecaps. And it really it kind of came down to who's going to make the first mistake, or who was going to have a moment of brilliance, because it was just deadlocked. Like it felt like there was barely
Mm.
anything happen on the ends of the pitch. It was all the battles in the midfield that was just they couldn't connect all that well because the midfielder was just battling it out so much. But in the 38th minute, we had finally a shot at target as Callum Montgomery had a sort of free header at the back post, not right at the back post, still sort of,
Mm.
I think, past the penalty spot. Didn't get a great connection on it, kind of bounced down tamely,
Yeah.
and Bomar was able to pick it up. Probably could have done better, but we're still a really tough position to score a header from. And then Levante Johnson, who up until that point was sort of all over the place. He was
Mm.
originally on the left wing and was trying to go 1v1, but wasn't able to. Like, I don't know, I didn't see how many successful dribbles he had, but it wasn't that many.
No.
I'm guessing in the first half, kind of all over the shop. Pounces on a sort of mistake, a poor clearance, I think it was, by Montgomery, and just picks the ball up and just leathers a shot from, I want to say, like 30, 35 yards, and leaves Carducci for dead. A fantastic strike, one that'll be in the, like, if that was in the CPL, that would be goal of the season contender.
Yeah.
And I think in basically any league, that's how sweet of a strike it was. It was a pure golazo, as I put there um, on the graphic. But yeah, it woke everybody up. It woke me up. I think my eyes were drooping at that point. It was like, oh God, okay, a goal from out of nowhere. It was the pick me up that I think the game really needed,
Mm.
as it was very much a sleepy first half. I do want to talk about one Whitecaps player, because he had a little bit of a scary moment. Ralph
Yes.
Priso, in the first, I don't forget which minute exactly it was somewhere, maybe it was the 19th minute or something like that.
Mm.
Priso, first start, hasn't really played all that much for the Whitecaps, in fairness. Looked quite shaky on the ball throughout the match, got pulled off quite early in the second half. I think it was at halftime he got pulled off. And I think it might have had to do with a back pass for Bomer that almost turned into a Kieran Trippier, Hugo Lloris moment where he back pass. Bomer was nowhere near it.
No.
And thankfully for Priso and for Laborda, who was tracking back, just went just wide of the post, and what it would have been an absolutely hilarious own goal, and it would have been an absolute gift wrapped present for Cavalry had that gone in. But yeah, a little bit of a scary moment there for Priso. But overall, what were your thoughts on the first half, Mike? Did you think it was more of a great performance by Cavalry, or more of just not all firing for the Whitecaps?
I think it's a bit of both. They both Cavalry played well, but yeah, the Whitecaps weren't in it. Ralph Priso having a bit of a nightmare there. He was the one that lost Callum Montgomery for the 38th minute chance. He was marking Montgomery, just stays central. Montgomery peels to the back post, and Priso goes chasing someone else instead, and left them all wide open. I mean, he didn't get much of a shot down in Colorado, did he, before coming up? Didn't really work out there, and he's got a lot of work to do, it seems, to get his confidence back up, and because he showed some promise in Toronto, but yeah, we'll have to see how he bounces back from this game. But yeah, after that, it was a long, like, Laborda's taken big steps. I mean, obviously you've seen watching the Whitecaps this year, but he was the one noticing the chance. Right, we'll take a quick, let's go direct while we've got the chance. Like, they didn't have the chance for that many times during the first half where it's like, right, let's hit Brian White and let's get runners around him. And that was what was difficult. They tried to deal with it. The headed clearance comes away, and yeah, Levante Johnson just one out of 20 is going in like that, I guess, if he's lucky.
If that 1 out of 20, if that. I would say, like, no one was expecting that goal. No one was expecting that to go.
No.
It's one of those that as soon as you hit it, you can feel that you hit that sweet spot. Just everything from the angle to where it hit your foot and the way that it was dipping. It's like, it's a one. I would say 1 in 100, if that. Opportunity shot. But credit to him, he put it away. A fantastic goal from Levante Johnson. And it really set up a more dynamic second half, I'd say, there. Obviously, Whitecaps did a little bit of rotation as well. The midfield was something that was lacking from them. I think Pedro Vita and Berhalter, they weren't really connecting all that well. So when, like, Kuwas came in and started to settle it down and play his, he kind of is like a regista, just spraying the play and stuff like that. It allowed the Whitecaps to have more control. And I mean, one thing that I want to talk about as well from the Cavalry point of view, is to not just talk about the Whitecaps, is the Tobias Wachowski was an interesting player for me in this one, because it felt like he was playing on the wing a lot and dropping deep a lot, which is something that I understand. You want to be part of the play, you want to pick up the ball, you want to try to create things, but I don't know if this is just, I like my number nines to stay number nines. I don't like to see them be all over the place. And it's something that I wasn't really enjoying from this match. It's just that Cavalry need a focal point, an out ball, and to be able, like, you need somebody to chip it to, and to be able to, be that hold up man up front and get the ball up the pitch. But if he's dropping deep, I understand if a striker drops deep to allow space in behind for the wingers to cut in, but he was, like, nowhere in those spaces to allow players. He was, like, by the touchline near the center circle. Like, he wasn't creating any space. He was just picking up the ball. And so I don't know if you had the same thoughts on his play, but that one was a really curious one. I don't know if that was him going rogue, or if that was the specific instruction that he was given by Tommy Golden Jr.
I think it was because when I look at the way they've, especially the starting lineup, they've used Camargo and Brooks as players that are just gonna, and Wachowski as players that are gonna move around and try and make things really tricky for the central defenders to know who to follow, where to go, who to track. I think that was the plan. Whether it worked is very much debatable. But I feel like they were sort of, they've looked at the Whitecaps, who have been good defensively, and Laborda's been very good. got new players alongside him that he doesn't usually play against. And I think Tommy Wheeldon Jr. was just sort of saying, trying to get them to say, like, they know who Wojciechowski is, they know what he can bring. All of a sudden, he's much deeper than they usually expect. And Leighton Brooks got a few chances in the second half from sort of rushing in and coming in late, and got a few headers in there. And so there was signs where it could work, but I just think they struggled to get out and find him in better places, which meant he was picking it up in areas he probably wasn't. They probably didn't want him to. But he was sort of fulfilling the role to a degree, but going a little bit too far. Because I think, looking at it, it was Brooks and Camargo more often than not, especially in the earlier stages before Brooks went off, that were the ones who were pushing at the final line, and they were the ones looking to get in. So it was an interesting way to try it, but just didn't quite get the best out of him, unfortunately, in this one.
Yeah, especially when you think of the chance that Lane Brooks had at like the around the 50th minute, whereas Tobias Wojciechowski laid it off to Fraser Aird. Fraser Aird did his. It's now becoming a staple, that kind of curling cross to the back post, and you would think Tobias Wojciechowski, Air Toby, would jump up and head that and get that on target. Fortunately, it wasn't Air Toby. It was Leighton Brooks who tried his best to get on the end, a diving header, but could not direct it towards goal. And then just a few minutes later, right back up the other side of the pitch, Ali Ahmed had a curling effort just inside the box, hit the crossbar. I think Ali Ahmed, I don't want to harp on too much, obviously, on the Whitecaps players, but I was so, Ali Ahmed, que jugador. Wow, he really impressed me in that second half. He just, I don't know, woke up and just gave the Whitecaps a lot more energy, a lot more dynamism, a lot more, I guess. He kind of brought the ball up the pitch in a way that was appreciated from some of the other players, where before, I think you look at some of the players, they would bring the ball up the pitch and then there would be no one really around them. I think Ali Ahmed is the kind of player that as soon as you see him get the ball, you're like, he's going to be able to do something. He's going to create that space. Let me actually go and play around him. I think he's kind of, that's a difference maker in that sense. But yeah, really, really impressed with Ali Ahmed. And both sides, Cavalry and the Whitecaps, kept fighting. And Cavalry towards the end started to get a little bit more involved. I don't know if it was necessarily out of desperation or the fact that maybe the Whitecaps were faltering a little bit. But in the literally last minutes of the game, in the 93rd minute, Malcolm Shaw, who came on, again, is a player that we know that he can be quality, but as the backup to Wojciechowski, at the level that Cavalry needs goals, is he going to deliver? Well, this is a good example of what he can do, because a little bit of sleepy defense on the Whitecaps, a ball played right through the middle, Shaw gets on the end of it, and somehow, from a very, very acute angle, I don't know how he contorts his body and foot and hits that ball to curl around Boehmer from like an 80-degree angle, and or I guess depending on what you see, like 10-degree angle, and just manages to curl it into like the back of the net. I have no idea how that. I rewatched that goal several times. I don't quite understand how that went in, but they got a goal at the very end. Were you impressed with the way that Cavalry were playing in the second half? Do you think that shows signs that they can do something at BC Place?
Definitely, like they should take a lot of positives from this match. It could have gone quite differently. The Whitecaps, like you say, like Ali Ahmed hit the bar. They've players who there's a great ball in, and I forget the debutant who played a great ball in for Ryan Gould, who just couldn't quite make it. So they
Cachuele, Cyprian Cachuele.
So Cavalry did give up chances, which you're going to against an MLS side, but I think in the second half, like they kept the game at 1-0, and when you're the underdog, if you can keep the game within a goal's sort of touching distance, you're going to keep. The longer that happens, the more confidence you're going to build if you're getting the ball forward a bit, and Cavalry were, and they started making more chances. And I think it hopefully will give them a bit of credit going into BC Place and not thinking, right, okay, well, let's panic and just try and rush it and see what happens. They can play their game. They've known they've got a goal in this one. They need to score twice, but it's not you don't have to score them in the first 20 minutes. Like they're going to create chances. So it's just try and keep cool heads, which I'm sure Tommy Wilden Jr. will do.
Yeah, and it's really about not making mistakes, because obviously there was sort of a mistake on the first one. The second one, where Levante Johnson, was definitely a mistake. It was just hoof ball from Bjorn Inge Utvik, and Callum Montgomery swings and misses, just whiffs on the ball, perfectly allows Levante Johnson to go through clean on goal and just slots it past Marco Carducci. Nothing Carducci could have done there. No, it was not a pretty goal. And when you're facing, the best team in Canada at the moment, you can't make those mistakes. And so I think it's going to be a really good lesson for some of those players, that on big stages against big teams, you have to be on it through the 90 minutes. And I think if they learn that, they'll be able to go to BC Place and really push the Whitecaps. And I'll be interested to see how much the Whitecaps rotate for that match, and how seriously they'll want to test some of their players to make sure that they get the results, especially since they are the defending champions and they want to make it back to back to back. But
they will have. I mean, they'll have to rotate. They don't usually field a Canadian, do they? So
usually just Ali, really, and Ryan, and Ryan Raposo as well. So you could see Ali or Ryan there, and then maybe we'll see one or two other Canadians in there as well. But yeah, I'm excited for that one, for the second leg. I think that it's going to be a very good match to watch, and I'll be there live to watch it, so I'll report back on that one. Excellent. We're not going to move on to the third match, which was Pacifc against Ottawa. 0-0 affair. No goals really to speak of. Yeah, the Sean Melvin derby. I like how you wrote that the biggest talking point was his return to capital. I don't know if that says how exciting this game
I'm trying to think if there's anyone else who played for both sides, but no one was ringing a bell. So.
No, I think it was just Sean Melvin. I can't imagine any other midfielder or defender that could have possibly played for both sides. But it was obviously, more seriously, it was obviously a huge game in terms of, this was the first time we saw Ottawa against Pacifc, the return of Manny Aparicio and Amir Didic facing their old sides here. And a lot, this was a highly anticipated match. Obviously, unfortunately for it was at the same time as this CS Saint-Laurent Toronto FC match, which I think a lot of people were more tuning into for the story. But this one had its own story going into it. This was one of the hottest attacking teams against the best defensive team.
Yes.
So I guess you can't really be all that surprised that they canceled each other out fully for a 0-0. But it did very much feel like it was attack versus defense for the majority of the match. Just Pacifc consistently defending and Ottawa consistently attacking. And I mean, there are a few points that we can obviously talk about. Sam Salter had a moment, I think within 3 minutes, to have a shot. Tissot had it was Tissot's free kick in the first half, the one that deflected off the bar. So that one was obviously a huge one that we can talk about. But I just want to show you, before we jump into the chances too quickly, some of the stats, because I looked back on the stats in this one, and it's an absolute sea of red. So just in the basic stats here that I got from FootMob: 64% possession, 7 total shots to 0. 0 big chances from both sides. I believe that's not even just the first half. I believe by the end of the matches, there were 0 big chances. I think the combined XG was like 0.75. And I think Pacifc had 0.25 in XG, so barely any chances at all. You look at those passes as well. I think it's like I can't read it right. 358 to like 162 there. it's just crazy how much Ottawa were on the ball. And then you look at these stats of shots and passes as well. It's all just a sea of red. The Ottawa had more passes in the opposition had in the opposition half than Pacific had in their own half. Almost double, actually, in Pacific's half. It was just low block, park the bus from Pacific in that first half. Were you surprised that the match went in that direction? Did you expect a little bit more from Pacific, or did you think that they were just playing for that 0-0 draw, or maybe that smash and grab 1-0 win?
Yeah, I think I was expecting them to be defensively solid again. I mean, still yet to concede a goal all season is really impressive. I
Well,
like.
they've conceded one against the Rovers. If we're talking
Sorry.
about all competitions, they
Yeah,
conceded one against the Rovers, and all. If we're talking about
true.
in all competitions,
Yeah.
but yeah,
No.
aside from that,
Yes. But to play so well defensively against your opponents who have got one of your star defenders from last season is a pretty good showing. I just think Ottawa got their Brienne further up the pitch in this one when they're bringing on Tissot at left back. They just had the speed and the pace to get at them, and it just forced Pacific back. And I think they just tried to sort of weather the storm. And we did see them start to break out in the second half and get forward. But I think they just feel so confident defensively that they were, okay, we'll weather this. We'd like to get out. They struggled for a bit, and eventually they started to. But I don't, like you say, like the lack of like big chances. Ottawa's, other than the ball hitting the bar from that deflected free kick, there was plenty of chances the ball goes through, but the pass isn't right, and it goes on through to Sean Melvin, or the shot is from distance and too weak. Or they get in the box and they shoot over or wide and miss the target. So as much as Pacific were pinned back, I think they were relatively comfortable for long periods. Obviously you don't want to be putting yourself in that position where one mistake could cost you.
yeah, exactly, and especially against the team that has like 15 goals in 5 games. You
Yeah.
know that they are dangerous, and it goes to show just how well Pacific are defending. The fact that they're facing against one of the hottest teams, and they're, like you said, they looked relatively comfortable. They were focused, they were concentrated. They the defenders were stuck in. They weren't allowing anything to go through inside that box. That's why they had relatively few chances. Tissot obviously had that huge chance, a deflection hit off the bar right there. The keeper had no chance on that one. But aside from that, not really much else happened in the
I
first
mean,
half. And in
no,
yeah,
yeah, in the first half, no, but that second
oh
half, I
yeah,
mean, it wasn't a huge amount, but Zach Baus's run, jinking around another
yeah.
that run in like the 80th minute of the defense, and got a relatively decent shot, but Yesley was really well placed, so he wasn't troubled. But that was really quite exciting watching that come through.
Yeah,
As always.
man. Yeah. Which also goes to show how little excitement there was, I guess, in the
Yeah.
match, where that was a major highlight. I mean, Rian Moore also had a little bit of a chance in the second half. He had like cross come in that he scuffed the volley,
Yeah.
and you could see he had his head in his hands afterwards, because that was actually a really good chance for Pacific to at least get a shot on target and threaten
Yeah.
Ryan Yassi there. But overall, I mean, not much more to talk about in this
No.
one. It was the first time that Atletico Ottawa has been shut out all season. Do you think the fact that this was the home leg and they couldn't get a goal and now have to go to Starlight Stadium on the island in BC, do you think that they'll be the one that'll be more disappointed from this result?
Oh, definitely. I think Pacific will be delighted. Just keeping like frustrating Ottawa is an absolute bonus. But just keeping it at a draw, I think as long as they didn't lose this game, Pacific would be happy. Taking that back to Starlight, and the way they've been playing domestically is just, they need to do something in the attack. They need to, we mentioned Rio Moore, he's got those two sort of scrappy goals, and think, oh, striker just needs confidence and the ball in the back of the net will bring it, but it hasn't quite, as we found. But if they can, Pacific have got the chance to go and do that now. It's just, they just need to get that little spark up front.
Yeah, and again, we've talked the last few weeks. They have a really, really strong defense, Pacific, but it's about just getting that attack going, and in front of their own fans, in front of their own, supporter groups and everything on their home turf, they will have the advantage. But I honestly think it'll be the same sort of thing where it's like, it's great if you can defend and you'll have that extra edge because you're at home. But if you can't get that attack clicking, Ottawa also have a pretty strong defense.
Yeah,
they haven't conceded too many goals across the season, and unless they, have the shades of Atletico, Ottawa from last year, it's not going to be easy for Pacific to score against them. So they really, like, when they get the chances, need to take it and need to have that kind of killer instinct in the attack if they don't want this to go another 0-0 and go straight to penalties for a second consecutive round for Pacific FC.
Oh, they'll be confident with Emil Gazdov. He's a penalty specialist.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah, called in and delivered. But yeah, that is it for that match. We're going to the fourth and final match, arguably the one that had the most hype going into it. The heroes of the last round, CS Saint-Laurent, the Quebecois team that defeated HFX Wanderers on penalties, facing the Giants of Toronto FC in Quebec. Really fantastic atmosphere from CS Saint-Laurent. They had 6,482 people in attendance for that one. It was packed out. There was flares, cheers, a lot of signs like this one, Club Local Ambition Nationale. I like that one. And also their the official club account on X with some photos said, "Hey CPL, we heard that you are looking for a team in Quebec." And looking at the fact that they got all these supporters in for this huge match against Toronto FC, do you think that they've already proven that, they could probably kick it, not only with the performances, but with the backing, with the story? They could probably kick it in the CPL?
Definitely. It was really exciting to watch. And the sound of the crowd really did come through. So it's definitely something. We need a club up there. Like, a club's got to be in Quebec next year. Like, in the next, when the next expansion sides get introduced. So I mean, this is a great sort of should I call it a great audition for their spot.
Yeah, no on tour series needed in Quebec. You've got in your proof that you have traction there. But no, to be fair to Saint Laurent, even though they lost 3-0 on the night, goals from Matt Longstaff in the 50th, DeAndre Kerr in the 59th, and Federico Brandeski with a cheeky free kick in the 76th. Even though they lost 3-0 on the night, I think they can be really, really proud of their performances, especially some of the players. I mean, I think the biggest one, aside from the midfielder Buganmi, who dominated midfield at some points, I really want to give a shout out to Maniatis, the goalkeeper for CS Saint Laurent, because there were a few times that Toronto FC could have and arguably should have scored in the first half, and he came out huge and blocked those opportunities. And it looked like Toronto FC were going to potentially pull a Toronto FC against Simcoe County Rovers, what they wanted to do, which is score a lot of goals. Because Jonathan Osorio had a goal basically cleared off the line 8 minutes in, and you thought, "Ooh, is this gonna be one of those matches that, despite all the story going into it, Toronto FC are gonna be ruthless and just score 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 goals?" Thanks to Maniatis and that goal line clearance and a lot of the players in CS Saint Laurent, that did not ever let Toronto FC have a moment to really breathe. it went 0-0 going into the first half, and they even had a few chances, even 10 minutes in. They had a couple of opportunities. They go up, some half chances there. Quemi, who was obviously the star of last round, Lloyd Quemi, the futsal superstar, had his opportunities as well. Overall, did you think that CS Saint Laurent did themselves proud in the first half with their performances?
Definitely. I mean, especially when you get that sort of goal line clearance at the end of sort of what so early on, you're just thinking, oh, this could be a really long evening. But the fact that they, like you say, they just went straight up the other end of the pitch, and they didn't get a great shooting opportunity after in that moment, but they were just causing Toronto a bit of a struggle, a little bit of a hassle, and in some ways it maybe woke Toronto up slightly. Like they get the chances and they think, oh, another one will come soon. These guys will just be defending. But Saint Laurent didn't just sit there and like cower by the MLS side coming in. And they were on the back foot a lot of the game, but when they got their chance to get on the ball and try and be aggressive, they took it, and that was really, really fun to see.
Yeah. And going into the second half, because of the strong performance, you could sort of feel that there might be something on here for CS Saint Laurent. They can just hold on. Obviously, Toronto FC, they have a lot of game changers at the bench, namely Federico Bernardeschi, who we'll talk about in a little bit. Yeah, not a bad one to bring off to play on a soggy pitch in Montreal. But Toronto FC got their first goal through the Geordie, Matty Longstaff, with a thumping effort, a little layoff from Cassius Malula in the box, and he just put his foot right through it, bit of swaz on it to make it like go curl outwards into the top corner.
Fade away.
Exactly. Nothing that Maniatis could have done there. It was such a well taken goal. And as soon as that goal went in, I thought, there it goes. There goes that opportunity. Because as soon they kind of felt like that was the spark that Toronto FC needed. And as soon as there was blood in the water and you knew that Saint Laurent had to go and attack to try to get that goal back, that was going to be pretty much it. I was hoping that I was going to be wrong, but were you also in the same boat as soon as the Longstaff goal went in?
Yeah, I did at first think, that's a shame. It wasn't until about 9 minutes later where I was just like, this game's ruined.
Yeah.
I mean, well, is the next slide ready for that?
Yes, it is, because 9 minutes later, controversy in Quebec, because CS Saint-Laurent had a really good opportunity to get into scoring position. A little bit of bouncing between a Saint Laurent player and Coelho and Mabika. Had the ball bounce up and hit very clearly the arm of Mabika. And CS Saint Laurent fans and the players outcry to the ref, screaming, hey, that's a handball, that's a handball, that's a handball. I think a little bit of the lack of experience from Saint Laurent kind of shines through, because there's always the old adage, play to the whistle. And they didn't. They kind of switched off in that moment. Toronto FC didn't. And they went straight up the other side of the pitch, and the Andre Kerr went all the way through the middle and did a really, really nifty finish into the corner to make it 2-0. But the handball call, I've seen a lot of conversation about it. On one hand, yes, it very much hit the hand, but also it kind of popped up out of nowhere. His hand, like he couldn't do anything because he just went up and hit his hand. Is it in a natural position? Is it in an unnatural position? Should that have been called? A lot of speculation. What is your opinion on it?
It's a penalty. Like his arm's not in a natural position at all, and like in similar situations that will be given like in other games. I just feel yeah, I feel really hard. Sorry for Saint-Laurent. So whether I'm right or not with the laws of the game, maybe a referee or someone who follows that bit closer may tell me the literal rule will say no, but I just feel it's not in a natural position. They've gained an advantage from that, no matter how quickly the ball pops up at his hands. They've gained an advantage from his handball. So for me, it's a pen.
Yeah. No, I can see that, and I feel like I know for me as well. I think everyone that wasn't Toronto C fan had those sort of rose tinted
Yeah,
glasses up. You want them to score. You want it to go 1-1. You want this
exactly.
to go close. You want the underdog, the fairy tale story. So I think
Yeah, have a
everybody was
heart
crying
referee.
for the handball. But unfortunately for CS Saint Laurent, they switched off for a half second while they were complaining to the referee, and that's
Yeah,
all Toronto FC needed to go up and make it 2-0. As soon as 2-0 went in, you sort of knew that there was only one way
yeah.
this
Then
game was going, and it was really unfortunate, I guess, in the circumstances, because had it gone the other way and had Mamadou Kane stepped up again and this time
mm,
dispatched a penalty against Toronto FC, that would have been an incredible story from him
definitely.
and his journey there. But unfortunately, we were not privy to that. And then it sort of became one-way traffic. Again, it's not like CAS Saint Laurent laid down and died after that. They kept fighting, but
Yeah.
really it was only one way that it was going there. And I really do appreciate the fact that Saint Laurent didn't matter what the scoreline was, they were always playing the same, which was
Mm,
aggressive, hard pressing, man to man marking. Really, just everyone was a nuisance in a sense where they just kept pestering all of the Toronto C players, and obviously Toronto C have players that are of quality and are able to handle that. But I'm just watching that entire time and being like, I would hate to face CS Saint Laurent like that. I
yeah.
would hate to face a team that is just constantly pestering you, pushing you, just nudging you, never letting you be comfortable on the ball. And the fact that I was that impressed made me feel like, yeah, this is a team that I would love to see week in and week
Mm.
out in the CPL. So once again, if there's anybody listening, Mark Noonan, if you
Get it done.
can, get it done as soon as possible. Like I said, no CPL2 or series required. It is not necessary. You got the fan base. You got the appeal. Make it happen in Quebec. But we did get a third goal in this one,
Yeah.
and it was from Federico Benedeschi. A very cheeky goal from the Italian. Reminded me of Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
What comparison there? Twice actually against the same opponent, Messi scored a similar free kick where it looked like the against Atletico Madrid, where it looked like Atletico Madrid were organizing, and then Messi realized, wait a minute, the referee blew the whistle. I can just shoot.
Mm,
And so he just shot, and he caught the goalkeeper by the surprise. And it was the same thing for Benedeschi from a very much more difficult angle, much more acute.
mm,
But I mean, with a player like Bernardeschi, the quality that he has, he's able to pick his spot, 9 times out of 10. Very, very cheeky goal from Fede
yeah.
Bernardeschi after he came in. And yeah, just when the subs came in for Toronto FC and you saw the strength that they had on the
Yeah.
bench,
Exactly.
it was curtains really for CS Saint Laurent.
Mm,
But they go out. I think they can go out with their heads held high and a statement not only to Toronto FC and to the fans, but to everybody watching that it's like, listen, we have quality in
mm,
Quebec. We have a lot of ballers here that are looking for an opportunity to ball out, and not everyone can
yeah.
make it to the CF Montreal Academy. We've seen a lot of players come out of CF Montreal Academy that have been really good. The likes
Mm,
of Sean Rea, the likes of Woobens Passias that
yeah.
have gone on to do bigger and better things. They need to have those outlets, those clubs where they can develop, where they can get those professional minutes, and I think that they deserve it in
Yeah.
Quebec, especially with the passion that they have there and I would say patriotism, but not towards Canada, but towards their own sort of French identity, their Quebecois identity. I think to have a team that they can kind of project that onto will make it really, really passionate. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see similar scenes to, Halifax and Wanderers grounds that constantly being filled out. If it was similar scenes to that in Quebec once that gets going in the near future.
Yes.
But yeah, Toronto get it done. No surprise there. They move on,
No.
and or not. Well, not yet technically. There's the other
No,
leg,
yeah.
and barring anything shocking, that should be game, set, and match. But it'll be great also for CS Saint-Laurent to have a match at BMO Field, to have a day out like that, and hopefully they
Yeah.
have fans come over and they can once again impress and once again showcase their ability. And if they can get a goal against an MLS side, I think that'll be worth all the while for them, especially at BMO Field. So I think that'll be something that I'm looking forward to, if they can break past Toronto C's defense and get that goal.
Yeah, definitely. And let's remember, as much as we want Quebec to get a team soon, if that's all down to the CPL. And so at the moment, these players know that if they want a professional contract, they've got to show other teams what they can do, and what better place to do that than in the Canadian Championship. Remind some of these other CPL clubs where if you've got players that aren't firing or aren't as reliable, look what we're doing right here, and put a little reminder into people's eyes.
Exactly, and hopefully soon, like I said, in a year or two, maybe we'll be reporting on some Quebecois teams in the future. But that is it for our Canadian Championship review. Before we wrap up, though, because of the time of recording, we are recording Friday for Pacific time. It's almost 3 p.m. We're almost an hour out from the first match of the CPL weekend. Like I said, it's just so much content, so many games, one on top of the other. We can barely keep up. So we'll do just a tiny little preview for this upcoming match. York face Valour tonight in the 500th CPL match of the history of the CPL. Fantastic to see 500 matches already in this one. How time flies, Mike. How time flies.
Exactly.
But we'll do maybe a little bit of a prediction going into the one. Both teams sort of desperate for wins, one more than the other, namely Valour. I'll go to you first. Who do you have taking this match and why? And I really want you to try to not, don those Valour glasses, because they've hurt you too many times before already.
Well, I'm gonna take this a little bit of a different way, and I'm gonna try and convince you that Valour are gonna that you're gonna take Valour by the end of this.
Oh, okay. Give me your pitch. It's like we're on Shark Tank.
So the immediate 5-goal swing from a 7-0 to a 2-0 at Ottawa was a slight improvement. So there's a little baby step towards improvements. But when we reviewed the game last week, the teams they've come up against are all top teams. They've had a really tough start to their schedule. They put in a fantastic performance against Forge, and Forge get that late winner. And I was really confident on them in improving as a team, not being a championship contender, but improving as a team. I think we saw that a bit in the second in the CPL game, not the Canadian Championship, against Ottawa as well. Whether Ottawa are playing at their best, I'm not sure. But we're starting to see the defensive partnership work out. Verhoeven and Dante Campbell seem to be the two nailed-on stars in the middle. Whether they could improve on that, not sure, but they seem to be building up a bit of a connection. York United's defense, I don't think, are going to be able to cope with Antonoglu's delivery at all. I'm really confident on how, if they can get the ball out wide with the changes that keep happening amongst that York defense, if they can continue to throw those balls in. Against Ottawa, Benate was getting onto chances, not converting, obviously, but we've seen Swivel get onto a chance in Vancouver. Sean Hundle's yet to step up, really. He's really struggling to get going in this team. If he gets a chance, if he can find gap. This, for me, is the game that Valour would have looked at going, right, we've got a really hard away schedule for a long time. We're playing top teams. When we come to York, that's York struggle at home. Like they have done for pretty long time now, and York are struggling for an identity. This is the game that I think Valour would have targeted as this has to be 3 points for us. So there, I mean,
you make some good points. You make some good points there. I do feel like you might have convinced me enough to predict a draw between the two. Because from the same margin, York United at home after sort of back-to-back losses to Forge and the impressive performance that they had against Vancouver at home, they are going to be a team that are going to want to get back to their performance against Vancouver and sort of replicate all of the good things that happened in that match against a Valour side that is in not fantastic form. So I feel like both sides will have a lot of reasons to think like they can get something out of this. I think both sides will have a lot of hopes that they can, given where they are in the table and their results so far. So I think it'll even out, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be a 1-1 draw between York and Valour. So at least I didn't put Valour to lose. You managed to convince me enough to get them, and that'll be point on the board for PDS. It's an improvement.
Yes.
What about you?
I'll go
What is your
1-0
prediction?
Both teams. I can't see either of them scoring freely. I'm going to go 1-0 Valour, and I will continue to push for the confidence and some support for Valour in hope that they send me one of their away kits.
I would love to put up right now the meme of I am ready to be hurt again because that is Mike every week before the Valour game happens. He's just ready, primed and ready to be hurt once again. But that is all for this week. Thank you so much for listening to this Canadian Championship quarterfinal leg 1 recap episode. Let me breathe. Make sure to follow us once again on all our socials at Coast to Coast FC to let you know what you thought about this week's episode and all of the episodes, because they're coming thick and fast with all of the action that is happening in Canadian soccer, and we absolutely love it here at Coast to Coast FC. So let us know, and if you have any interesting comments or questions, we might shout you out on the next show. But until next time, I'm Felipe Vallejo.
And I'm Mike Rice.
And this has been Coast to Coast FC, signing out.